All right.
Here we go!
Ladies and gentlemen, UFC returns to Australia this weekend, and we are here to talk about it. Oscar, the usual suspect, is here with me to talk about UFC 305. Like I said, that goes down this weekend, which is a fantastic card. Israel Adesanya, Dricus du Plessis in the main event for the middleweight championship of the world. Firstly, Oscar, I'm going over to you. How are you?
I'm very good. This is a card that I've been waiting for a long time because this was the fight that was promised to us a year ago when we saw these two face off in the octagon after Dricus du Plessis knocked out Robert Whitaker. Everybody thought that's the next fight. We're going to see it in Australia. Unfortunately, Dricus came in with a broken foot, and we had to have Adesanya fight Strickland, and Strickland takes the title, and then du Plessis takes the title. Now we've come full circle. We're back to where we started, and I'm very excited to see it because there's serious bad blood between these two. We even saw tears fall at that press conference. That's how high the emotions are coming into this one, and I think the fight is going to deliver.
Yeah, I completely agree. Let's waste no further time and get to the elephant in the room, and that's obviously UFC 305 this weekend. It's going to be a good show. As you mentioned there, obviously Dricus du Plessis versus Israel Adesanya in the main event. Fantastic main event. Looking forward to it. Middleweight championship of the world. I'm just going to go out there. I really feel like we're going to see an Adesanya performance this week, and I feel like we're going to see a showcase this weekend from Adesanya. It's going to look good. It's going to look good. I'm looking forward to it. Adesanya, I feel like obviously he's coming to this fight in the blue corner, which I feel like he's going to be more motivated. And that's the first time in a while he's been in that blue corner. Obviously, he had that Jan Blachowicz fight, obviously the Alex Pereira fight, but I feel like this one's different. He lost the belt against Strickland in a fashion that I feel like he won't want to accept. You know, it was a performance where Strickland came in there, pressed him up against the fence, and just ultimately just used his jab and his right hand, and that was pretty much it the whole time. But I feel like Adesanya's going to want in there and just announce himself that he's still the king of the division, and I feel like he will this weekend. Well, tonight. Sorry. I feel like we're going to see a fantastic performance from Israel Adesanya. I believe he knocks out Dricus du Plessis.
I'm going to have to agree with you. The striking style from Dricus du Plessis has been criticized from the beginning simply because he leaves a lot of openings for his opponents, but no opponent has been able to find the opening just yet. But if Adesanya comes in here with a very good game plan and motivation, like you said, I think he will be able to find the perfect counter strike to knock out Dricus du Plessis. I'll say round 3 because Dricus has shown a lot of durability in these last couple of fights. He's taken some shots from very powerful, very much amongst them. And I think he's going to deliver on a promise to finish what Dricus started. In round 3, he'll get that knockout, add another one to the highlight reel, and continue his rise to greatness. I just believe that Dricus does not exactly have the grappling that like a Robert Whitaker has, in my opinion, when it comes to the offensive wrestling. And Whitaker really couldn't succeed all that much against Adesanya in their second fight. So if Adesanya's takedown defense holds up, I think he's going to win this all day.
Yeah, completely agree. Looking forward to that one. Going to be a fantastic one in the main event. I'm looking forward to seeing Adesanya regain his throne. There's a few people in the comments, Smash Sports, he doesn't agree. He's going with Dricus subs Izzy in round 3. So that's a big pick. I'm looking forward to it anyway. I think it's a close matchup. It should go either way. Obviously, we're looking at a striker, striker versus striker, essentially on paper. But obviously, Dricus, I do believe, has that bit of advantage with wrestling / grappling. So, but yeah, if he can get the fight to the ground, I feel like he'll be able to hold that big advantage. But it's just whether if he does. I feel like Adesanya can keep this one on the feet and knock him out. The co-main event though is even spectacular. In terms of on paper and one of the best fights on the card. Surely this is going to produce a battle between two very, very local guys, Kai Kara France and Steve Erceg. Fantastic matchmaking from the UFC. I truly feel like this could be, maybe the fight night of the card. Two strikers, two phenomenal strikers. Steve Erceg, obviously, predominantly he wants that boxing, has that power. Kai France, fantastic kickboxer. This one, I do believe is going to go in the hands of Steve Erceg. I feel like he's got what he takes. Obviously on the feet. We know how crispy his boxing is. Obviously, we've seen Kai France finish before against Brandon Moreno. I'm not too sure if he gets finished again, but I believe Steve Erceg picks him away on the feet. If you look at Steve Erceg's last fight against Pantoja, to be honest, I don't think it was a bad performance. I feel like he went in there, inserted himself as probably as one of the best flyweights in the world right now, and that's gave me a lot of confidence in this pick against Kai France. I truly believe Steve Erceg goes in there and puts on a great performance and beats Kai France. I feel like it's going to be a good showcase bout for him, but it could go either way. This is a fantastic matchmaking from the UFC. I love it.
I do too. I think we're going to see a back and forth fight. Both guys are natural strikers. You rarely see either guy go for a takedown. When Erceg went for a takedown in his last fight, it was a mistake. I think he's going to learn from that. But in this one, he actually can implement some grappling if he wants to. But we're going to see these guys exchange in the pocket. It's going to be exciting. I do think Kai France, being the smaller man, has a little bit more of a speed advantage here. He also has more experience at the UFC level, but Erceg is just coming off of a title fight in which I thought he won. So it's going to be very tough to pick, but I do have to side with Kai France. I think he's going to use his speed to his advantage and land the bigger shots when it matters. And also you have to be aware that this is in Australia, and Kai France is from New Zealand, so we could see maybe the crowd favor Erceg a little more, and that could sway judges. But I still will have to side with Kai France. I'm going to go with the underdog. A close flyweight fight like this, it's better to go with underdog.
Yeah, fantastic flyweight fight. I'm looking forward to it. Steve versus Kai France at a co-main event. As we said, matchmaking from the UFC is impeccable. This one as well, fantastic. Mateusz Gamrot versus Dan Hooker. Fantastic matchmaking again from the UFC. Looking forward to this one. 155 pounds. This one, I do believe, is going to be quite one-sided, and I feel like it's in the way of Mateusz Gamrot. I think he's fantastic. He's on a three-fight winning streak, coming off the back of the winner over Rafael dos Anjos. Against Dan Hooker, who is very limited on the ground. If he gets taken down, I feel like that's where he can get controlled a little bit and submitted potentially. And that's where I feel like Gamrot can really shine. He's well-rounded. He can strike as well. He can grapple. He's got all these submissions as well in his arsenal. I believe this is one-sided, and I feel like it's in the favor of Mateusz Gamrot. I think he takes him down early and wears him down. Potentially gets that, the round 2 submission. That's what I feel like is going to happen in this one. Mateusz Gamrot, I believe, is no joke. If he gets a win over Dan Hooker, who knows? He could potentially be next in line for that 155-pound shot.
That's a very realistic scenario. Mateusz Gamrot has got a lot of submission grappling experience. Dan Hooker has been submitted before. A couple of years ago, got submitted by Islam Makhachev in about 2 minutes. So that could happen here, but I got a feeling he's prepared a lot for Mateusz Gamrot. I don't think he can overcome that grappling challenge, but I think he can go to the distance against him. So Mateusz Gamrot will get takedowns in this fight constantly, and Dan Hooker's going to do everything he can to scramble to his feet, but if you've seen any Mateusz Gamrot fight, he's the master scrambler. This guy out-scrambled Arman Tsarukyan on the ground in multiple points. He's so talented. There's just a little problem is that he's not that exciting at times, and that comes down to the fact that he doesn't do a lot of damage. So you got this rowdy Zach crowd cheering on Dan Hooker. Crazy things could happen where maybe he does more damage on the feet. If you look at Gamrot's fight with Jalen Turner, that was a fight that was a close fight. Jalen Turner was doing damage and Gamrot had the control time. So it could be a scenario like that, but I still believe that we're going to see Gamrot dominate enough to win on the scorecards.
Yeah, I completely agree. Another great one, 155 pounds on the main event, on the main card. Sorry, it's going to be fantastic. Looking forward to that one. Next one at heavyweight, Tai Tuivasa versus Jairzinho Rozenstruik. A fantastic one for if you're looking for pure power and potentially a knockout. I think this is the side we're going for. Tai Tuivasa, obviously, And, he wasn't on the greatest of run. Obviously, he's on a 4-fight losing streak. Every time he's been finished, whether it's been KO or your punches or or a submission. So he needs this one badly, but he's head to head against Josarina Rosenstruik is probably the one of the hardest hitters we've seen in the UFC heavyweight division for a long time. Obviously, we had Francis Ngannou up there as well. But yeah, Rosenstruik, if he touches you, it potentially could be lights out. We've seen Tai Tuivasa hurt on multiple occasions, but that's against strikers like Cyril Gane who are more technical. Rosenstruik can be technical at times, but I'm not too sure what way it's going to fold. But if I had to edge someone, I'm probably going Jairzinho. I think he gets the job done.
I just feel like that's the logical option in this fight because, as you mentioned, Ty is on that losing skid. He's very untrustworthy. He's been in very poor form in these fights. You can't just attribute it to the fact that he's been fighting grapplers because he's fought in strikers as well, and he's had a lot of problems. The Cyril Gane fight, that was completely on the feet. He looked great in that fight at points. He was able to score a knockdown in that fight, and Cyril Gane actually said he went to sleep, and he woke up on the mat, woke back up, and then was able to finish the job. And then the Pavlovich fight, he took way too soon after that Gane loss, which he got smashed. And then you look at the Volkov fight. Volkov is a striker, and he demolished Ty on the feet. Then he chokes him out with an Ezekiel choke, and then Tabura submits him as well. We're not going to see any grappling here. But Jairzinho has a power similar to that of Volkov, not too dissimilar from Pavlovich. We've seen him win by knockout in the last 10 seconds of a fight. I believe that Tai Tuivasa is not as durable as he used to be. I think he's going to fall over as soon as they exchange in the pocket, and Jairzinho will land it first. I think he's going to have more confidence in this spot. And unfortunately, we're going to see no Shui on top of the octagon on this night.
Yeah, I agree. Looking forward to that one. Heavyweight, that should be entertaining. Every time Tai Tuivasa steps into the cage grab, well, touch wood anyway, cross fingers. It's pretty much entertaining. He puts on a show. He's a good showman. Next one on the main card, and of the first one on the main card, we've got Li Jingliang versus Carlos Prates. Oscar, moving over to you. Li Jingliang, a veteran, a Chinese veteran. He takes on Carlos Prates. Which one are you siding in there? Records pretty much equal. Li Jingliang has been inside the UFC for a very long time. The Leech, is the experience from the Leech going to, be able to prevail?
I think that the experience is the main reason why I got to take Li Jingliang here. This guy's been in the UFC for over a decade. He's fought multiple high-level guys, and he's done well against them before. Unfortunately, he's suffered from a serious spinal injury in these last couple of years. That's why we haven't seen him compete. And on the other hand, you got Carlos Prates having these excellent finishes in the octagon. He's part of the Fighting Nerds team, which everyone is high on right now. And I got a feeling that that's why he's the favorite. Li Jingliang, if he's what we're used to seeing, will win this fight. Because what we're used to seeing is a durable guy that walks forward and lands these bombs. He's got serious power. He was able to put Santiago Ponzinibbio to sleep. He was able to put Zaleski dos Santos to sleep. Prates, I really don't think his durability has been tested. And if you look at some of these fights that he's been having, he's not an active fighter. He doesn't throw a lot. He waits for the right opportunity. I'm not sure the right opportunity will arise here, and that'll cause him to just be waiting while the time runs out and he doesn't land high volume of strikes. So I think Li Jingliang is going to outbox him and win the decision in this fight. He's a massive underdog. I don't think he should be. The people that have him as a big underdog are assuming he's going to be a very diminished version when we see him in there, but I don't think he will be.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I'm also going with the Leech. I think he gets the job done. I think it's a sensible pick. Sorry, but Carlos, as you mentioned, he's looked great inside the UFC so far. 3-0. He's got some great finishes under his belt. But the experience, I do believe, from the Leech will just be enough for him to get the victory on the night. Junior Taffa versus Volta Walker, two brothers of two UFC fighters, and obviously in the UFC. Junior, obviously brother of Justin, and Volta, obviously brother of Johnny. So a battle of brothers. Which side is it going? I'm not too sure. Obviously, Junior Tafa 5-2. I don't feel like like his brother as well. Likes to kickbox. But if anyone's looking at them past fights, surely you're chopping at the legs straight away because it's ridiculous.
I just think that this is not going to be the most exciting fight to watch because of the Walter Walker style. You look at him; he's Johnny Walker's brother. Does not fight like Johnny Walker. He doesn't have the same durability issues as Johnny Walker. Doesn't have the same athleticism, but he can grapple a little bit, and he's also showing up in better shape than he did in his debut. So I think the fact that he lost his debut has been eating away at him. And Junior Tafa, I just think coming from that kickboxing background, he's just playing a serious catch-up game when it comes to grappling. Everything we've seen from his brother, Justin Tafa, has shown nothing but poor wrestling defense. I think we're going to see Walter Walker kind of dominate here, get a lot of control time, and it's going to make the crowd very unhappy. So not only are we going to see one of the Samoan guys lose, but we're going to see two of the Samoan guys lose. They're going to have to have no shoe in this one once again. It's going to be a decision for Walker.
Yeah, I completely agree. If I'm Walter Walker, I'm looking at his last fight and chopping at them legs straight away. Marcos Rui de Lima put on an absolute fantastic showcase there for anyone that is fighting Junior Tafa in the future. There was no defense in Junior Tafa's coming back, which I feel like that's something that he would worked on massively. But yeah, it's still an area that needs to be, what's the word?
Worked on.
Worked on, yeah, definitely worked on, yeah. But yeah, I'm going with Walker in that one. Next one on the prelims, we've got Josh Culibao versus Ricardo Ramos. Ricardo Ramos, obviously, he has shown a little bit inside the UFC. But back in the day, there was a lot of I would say a lot of hype going in behind him. But then obviously ran into Lerone Murphy. His only loss before that was against Said Nurmagomedov, and since then, he's been bouncing losses, wins, but now is on 2 losses back to back against Charles Jourdain and Julian La Rosa. Josh Culibao, obviously he's 11-3 as a professional, and he looks to get a win after 2 losses against Lerone Murphy and Danny Silva. This one, a bit of a tough one for me to call. I'm not too sure where it's going to go. Ricardo Ramos, once upon a time, as I mentioned, had a little bit of hype behind him, but sort of derailed a little bit. Josh Culibao as well. You could arguably say he had a little bit of hype around him as well. Very similar in age. This one a very tough one to call, but I feel like Josh Culibao gets the job done by the slightest of edge.
Now, this was the tough one to pick. As you said, Ramos, he used to be more of a solid prospect, more reliable, but recently his submission defense has been lackluster, getting submitted back-to-back to guillotines. But outside of that, he's shown that he's very capable on the feet, and he's very capable of getting takedowns. So Josh Culibao is going to have to keep this on his feet and try to outbox him. But I just think he's going to struggle defending those takedowns. He doesn't have the submission abilities that the previous opponents for Ramos have had. So I think Ramos is going to be even more relentless with the submission offense. That's going to result in a victory for Ricardo Ramos as an underdog. Another fight where the fans are going to be a little displeased.
Yeah, I agree. Next one, Casey O'Neill versus Luana Santos. This one, Casey O'Neill riding a 2-fight losing streak. A big one for her. She's obviously in her hometown, essentially in Australia. She's looking to get the job done. She's looking to get a win. But she faces Luana Santos, who's on a good run, 8-1 as a professional. Thus far has looked decent inside the UFC. 3-0, wins over Maria Agapova, Stephanie Egger, and Juliana Miller. 2 finishes. And I believe she gets the job done against Casey O'Neill. I feel like I've seen enough from her 3 fights inside the UFC to give me that confidence that she gets to win against Casey O'Neill. Casey, I do believe, as I mentioned, in a tough position, 2 losses. This one is definitely needed, so I feel like she'll come in hungry. But if you look at her wins inside the UFC, she beat Antonia Shevchenko, Roxanne Modafferi, and I still feel like there's something still missing with Casey O'Neill, especially in Luana Santos. I feel like she's definitely better than Casey, and I feel like she gets the job done. I think the Australian fans have been they've got some tough matchups. It's not like when the UFC comes to England. I feel like the English fighters get a little bit of favoritism as
Yeah.
matchup. You know.
Yeah, and I'm all for it, but yeah, you're completely right. Luana Santos, she's been very consistent since she debuted in the UFC, able to get a first round TKO against Juliana Miller. Then she's out here out grappling grapplers and getting these quick submissions, looking great. I hopped off the Casey O'Neill train after I saw her tap out against Ariane Lipsky. I could not take it anymore. When you're tapping out to Lipsky, who is historically had issues with grapplers. Even Anthony Shevchenko was able to out-grapple her when she fought her. So I didn't like to see Casey O'Neill get submitted that easily with an armbar. And when you're struggling against Lipsky, it's going to be even worse when you're fighting Luana Santos. Got a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, got a brown belt in Judo. He's going to take her to the ground eventually. And she's going to submit her. Just the way I see it going down. And if it just stays on the feet, Santos, I think, is more defensively responsible. When we saw Casey O'Neill fight Roxanne Modafferi, she got hit like 140 times. So her striking defense is very poor, in my opinion. It's going to let her down here, and we're going to see Luana Santos win this fight wherever it goes. But the pick is second round submission.
Yeah, agree. Looking forward to that one. It's going to be a good showcase for both fighters. 125 pounds. Good for Casey to get sort of a hometown fight for her in Australia. But yeah, a great one. Looking forward to that one. Agree with Luana Santos as well. Next one, Jack Jenkins versus Herbert Burns. I think this one is fairly simple for me anyway. The pick is Jack Jenkins with a lot of confidence, a very lot of confidence. From what I've seen from Herbert Burns, it's quite abysmal. He's a 3-fight losing streak. We saw him. I think he's even quit in a fight before. He's been. I just what we're seeing from him. It's not great. That does not fill me with confidence. 3-fight losing streak against Daniel Pineda, Bill Alger, and Julian Arce. So, and that Bill Alger, as you say, he lost from exhaustion. He was gone, and I feel like that's what Jack Jenkins has to do: get out the first round, second round, and then put the pressure on in the third round. He before his last fight against Chepe, he showed a little bit of talent inside the UFC, and that's why I'm picking him. I feel like if Herbert Burns can get it in the ground in the first round, it could be problems. But Jack Jenkins just has to survive that first and halfway through that second round, and I think he's going to be okay. I think he gets the job done. Maybe even a third round stoppage. I feel that's what I'm going for.
Yeah, you're right. Herbert Burns has got no heart and he's got no cardio. And those are two massive flaws to have in fighting. And Jack Jenkins has shown a very good capability of defending takedowns before. I think he can defend some takedowns from Herbert Burns. And Herbert Burns, as soon as things don't go his way, this guy just packs his bag and he goes home. That's just how it goes. We're going to be early in round 2, and he's going to be looking very discouraged, and he's going to fall apart. Jack Jenkins is going to swarm him and get a knockout in round 2. There's really no other way I see this going, because Herbert Burns, sure, he can submit these guys quickly in the lower ranks, but Jack Jenkins is not going to just give up like that.
Yeah, I completely agree. A great one. Fantastic prospect, Australian prospect is Jack Jenkins. Another one was Tom Nolan. He came into the UFC with a lot of hype behind him and got, I wouldn't say exposed, but got shot down very, very quickly with a thunderous right hand from Nicholas Morta. Then he bounced back against Victor Martinez. He takes Alex Reyes, who I believe is another brother. I don't know where is he another brother of Dominic Reyes?
Yeah.
There's so many brothers on this card. It's quite funny. But yeah, Alex Reyes, hadn't fought inside the UFC for a very long time. He eventually made his return back, and he also suffered a KO loss against Charlie Campbell. This one, I'm in favor of Tom Nolan. He's a huge favorite according to Tapology, but I'm not looking too much into that. We haven't seen much from Tom Nolan, I do believe, but I believe the inactivity from Alex Reyes and from what I saw in his last fight, it gives me a little bit of confidence siding with Tom Nolan.
Yeah, I agree with you here. Alex Reyes, this guy just doesn't fight. He doesn't fight. He fought 2016 against Mike Perry, got destroyed with an elbow. He comes back last year against Campbell, and then he gets destroyed right away. So he just doesn't have the benefit of being an active fighter, and he's plagued with injuries, and he just doesn't have any durability. So I don't think he can really survive the barrage of strikes that Tom Nolan is going to bring. And I don't have any confidence that he's got the power like Moda to finish Nolan. So you know that Tom Nolan loves to be in the clinch and loves to throw knees. I expect X-Rays to get caught with one of those knees and topple over, get knocked out fairly quickly in this fight.
Yeah, I agree. A cool stat, but yeah, Alex Reyes has been inside the UFC for 7 years and he's only fought twice.
Wow, an average of one fight in 3.5 years. Insane.
So actually, this is quite a quick turnaround for him. So we don't know what we're going to see, but yeah, I do believe Tom Nolan is the pick on this one with a lot of confidence. 170 pounds is next up. Kenan Song versus Ricky Glenn, a battle between two veterans, two people that have been inside the UFC for a very long time. Kenan Song, he's had some good fights back in the day, but now he's off a one fight losing streak against Kevin Doucette. Ricky Glenn on a 2-fight losing streak against Christian Yagos and Drew Dober. Oscar, throwing this one over to you. Are you going with Kenan Song or Ricky Glenn?
Yeah, so this is going to be a quick pick. So Ricky Glenn is a featherweight. He's a featherweight, and he's fighting at welterweight. So imagine how it goes when he moves up yet another weight class, and he fights a guy with the power punching ability of Song Kenan. Kenan was able to drop Ian Gary in round 1 when he fought him. So imagine how it goes when he fights Ricky Glenn, who's basically at the end of his career. I think this is going to be a quick knockout for Kenan Song.
Yeah, fantastic pick. And yeah, Ricky Glenn moving up to 170 pounds against, as you mentioned there, Kenan Song. He's quite built in that frame already, isn't he? 170 pounds. So definitely going to be, in a physical, a bigger man on the night. First one of the evening, we do have Stuart Nicole versus Jesus Aguilar. Jesus Aguilar 10-2, Stuart 8-0. This one at 127 pound catch weight. So one of them must have missed weight. I'm not too sure. I missed it. Who missed weight?
Aguilar missed weight. He was 2 pounds over.
There you go. Confidence in Stuart straight away. Hard weight cut for Jesus Aguilar. If you look at Stuart making his UFC debut, if you look at his record, fantastic, emphatic outside the UFC. A lot of finishes. His last fight was against a guy who was 5-0. He got a stoppage in round 1. Jesus Aguilar, as I mentioned, 10-2 in his career. 2 wins inside the UFC. He's been in his position before and actually fought an Australian guy in Shannon Ross and knocked him out. His only loss comes to Tatsu Taira. Other than that, he's got 2 wins inside the UFC. Are you picking the prospect or are you picking the guy, Jesus Aguilar, who missed weight 127 pounds, but ultimately you've got that much confidence in him that you're choosing?
Yeah, I'm not really big on Jesus Aguilar. He's got like a good record on paper, but you look at his knockout inside of the UFC was a 20-second knockout. It was against a guy with zero durability whatsoever, and then he takes on a guy on Contender Series who easily gave up to a guillotine. So I'm not overly impressed with his skill set. He has incredibly short arms. He's like a short man. I don't think he really has the kind of physicality that'll make him go too far in this division. On the other side, you got Stewart, who's this very seasoned striker from the area. He's going to be quick. He's going to be styling on him. The UFC knows what they're doing here. There's a reason that Jesus Aguilar isn't on that Noche UFC card. He's not exactly amongst the best Mexican fighters, if you ask me. So Stuart Nicole, he's going to put on a show in front of the fans. They're going to cheer him on, and it's going to give some momentum to this card. And I think it'll be a very memorable card, in my opinion. There's been this big fan sentiment on social media recently. People are saying that the UFC fights have been significantly less exciting since UFC 300, and I have to coincide in that. I'm usually one of these people that try to defend these fight cards, but I just think that we've had a really bad luck as of late, and I think we're going to have good luck. I think we're going to have very violent fights that are going to entertain us beginning to end. So make sure to tune in about 2 hours time.
Yeah, absolutely. It feels weird filming it on today because I'm always thinking, oh, this weekend's gonna be, it's gonna be great. Make sure you watch this weekend, but it's literally watch tonight. It goes down in literally in a few hours. The prelims start. It's gonna be a fantastic show, as you mentioned. There, I'm looking forward to it, and I feel like the Australian fans, they will be there early. They'll be there in numbers, and they'll be loud. They're rowdy. They love the beers, and etc. I feel like it's going to be a good one. I feel like there'll be a lot of shoeies, but not from Tai Tuivasa. I feel like there's going to be a lot in the crowd. It's going to be a good night, as you mentioned. I feel like it's going to really entertain. And the all important fight is the first night, the first fight of the night. If that goes off and Stewart goes in there and gets a huge knockout, the fans are going to be pumped, and we're going to have a really good night, and that's going to set the tone. I really truly believe that the first two fights is the set in stone of how the momentum of the show is going to go afterwards. If we start with 3 bangers, knockouts, I feel like the momentum will sort of carry itself out until the end of the night. And as you mentioned, we do have some really good matchups. Which, where if you look at them, you feel like, all right, that guy can actually get a finish. Like Tuivasa versus Jairzinho Rozenstruik, 2 big men. I feel like both of them are both vulnerable to getting finished. Definitely see one in that one. Israel Adesanya, Dricus du Plessis, both finishes. I feel like we're going to see a finish in that one. Kai France, Steve Erceg, another one that we can both see a finish in. So I feel like the UFC matched up well for this Australian card.
Yeah, and obviously that main event has everything you want in a UFC title fight. 2 guys that are in the basically prime of their careers. If people are going to believe me with Adesanya, which I think he is. And this is a perfect storyline that's been building for years at this point. So I really think this is going to be one of the fights that we're talking about at the end of the year. Is one of the major moments of the year, whether it's Dricus du Plessis cementing himself as the best champion from Africa, or Adesanya getting the belt back once again, becoming a rare 3-time champion. We won't know, but until a couple of hours, but very excited to find out.
Yeah, whatever happens this weekend, we do know what's next for them, whoever the champ is, and that is Sean Strickland later down the line. So that's going to be good. I do love seeing Sean Strickland fight. I just think he's entertaining, whether it's fight week, on the mic, press conference. The UFC might not like what he says, but, it's just funny. He's got good banter, and I feel like it's, what the UFC needs as a champion to, be able to get on the mic and really entertain the fans. Looking forward to it, though. This weekend, as you mentioned, UFC 305 in Perth, Australia. It's going to be a fantastic show. Israel Adesanya, Dricus du Plessis, Steve Erceg, Kai France. We've talked all about it here. Oscar, any last sending off words before we catch them all next week?
Yeah, make sure to tune in a couple of hours. Enjoy those fights, and we'll be here within the next week or so to recap the events of UFC 305, du Plessis versus Adesanya, and I believe we have a fight card next week. I don't know. I'm not looking that past because I know what's right in front of me is going to really deliver. But yeah, enjoy the fights, guys.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Enjoy the fights in Australia this weekend, and I will quickly check. Actually, we have Cannonier versus Caio Borralho there.
Oh, we do. That's in the Apex. Unfortunately, that fight, I believe, deserves a crowd.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got some bangers on there. Angela Hill. Well, I'll say bangers and I'll talk about Angela Hill, but we've got Edmund Shabazi and Gerald Meerschaert, Michael Morales, Neil Magny. That's a good one.
Yeah, it's a significantly better card than like 90% of the Apex cards that we have this year, in my opinion.
Yeah, not too many fights on the card, but it'll deliver. Looking forward to it. Make sure you catch us then next weekend when we talk about it. Thank you very much for joining me. A very good bye. Enjoy the fights in about 2 hours' time. Watch them on UFC Fight Pass, the early prelims, ESPN, wherever you're watching them, the UK, BT Sport, TNT Sport. Catch it. Make sure.